Hello and welcome to another Let's Play. Me, GamerWolfSix of Sileo, Tales of a New Dawn. Before we start, if you're interested in playing this game, you can get it free on itch.io. But if you want to support the people that make this game and or get the news version earlier, you can go to their Patreon, where it's, I'm guessing $5 a month. I didn't actually look it up. No, wait, they don't have a Patreon. Wait, do they have Patreon? I guess they don't have Patreon anymore. Was it this and some other one that doesn't have a Patreon anymore? Interesting. So, on the last Let's Play, we had a misadventure at the hot springs. That being, after, what's his name left, I think? The polar bear, we needed to go to the bathroom right fast because apparently the ice cream both me and Ty shared was bad. I was thinking that they were suggesting that ice cream and hot tubs don't mix, but yeah, I don't know. So, was there anything else on that? No, I guess that was the main thing of that. We also were at the music thing to be like, hey, everyth's chill. But man, it's kind of funny playing this game again. I mean, I did do like one video between now and last year, because I was just like, let's do something. And just like right now, the video I posted just recently is the one where the main character gets explained about the backstory of the entire world, you know, the human war, stuff like that. And the video that is going to be posted this week was created exactly, well, not exactly, but like the same month last year. That's how many videos I made and stuff like that. But for once, out of all the visual novels, this one is the one with the least amount of videos. So I'm like, yeah, we're gonna go back to here. And sorry for like that long-winded thing, but maybe we'll finally be able to finish Ty's route. Even though there's still like 20 odd videos left to post. No, 22. Is it face? And begin. Arriving outside, I spotted Ty in the rapidly fading evening light as he stood beside a tree, his phone to his ear as he faced the river ahead. The venue was immediately across from the streets, from the waterfront, and at this time of the evening, it was a sight to behold. I approached my boyfriend, his silence confirming I would not be interrupting any conversation before I spoke up in order to capture his attention. Hey, got a hold of him yet? Wait, we have a different shirt? Oh, my goodness, I had not expected you to follow. You gave me quite a fright. Sorry about that. It's okay, right? Then I came out here with you? Of course it is, my dear. You're calling Apollo, right? I was hoping I could speak to him for a moment. I want to express my gratitude for what he did for me, for us. We owe him a lot. What we do, my love, that we do, yeah. Though, also, shouldn't we just be calling him by his actual name, Spencer? I don't know. Okay, Apollo is his actual name, but, you know, his hidden name? Just in case, I don't know. It is over communications. There could be someone spying. Ty lowered the phone from his ear, disconnecting the current call and redialing before returning his headset to its former position. Alas, it would seem I'm unable to reach him at present. Nothing more than dead air. I do hope it's not a sign that my phone is faulty yet again. Twice already this year, I've had it repaired. If it happens again, I'm half inclined to simply throw it in the garbage and buy a new one instead. Would you like to try mine instead? I have plenty of talk time. I wonder if that's like a European thing, because isn't this a European game-esque? I don't know. Thank you for offering, my dear, but the ice cream stand will not open again until morning. Oh, was he calling the ice cream stand? I guess so. The night is still young, and there'll be ample opportunities for us to try again later on. But look at me, getting ahead of myself and making assumptions. I forgot to even ask you if that is what you'd like. I want more ice cream. I was speaking to Diego earlier, and he said that if I came home tonight, I was a total loser. He also said something about butt babies. Well, that certainly sounds like Diego. I suppose that means we will have to prove him wrong. Will we, my love? Will we not, my love? If you'll have me. My dear, it would be my privilege. Ooh. Though I must ask, however hesitantly, but babies, he said? I think he's suggesting that we should bang. Oh, dear. Was that not a given? I do seem to recall promising finishing what I started at the hot springs. I suspect neither of us would be content if our night concluded there. Am I right? Also, please make sure that you cleaned yourself out. I mean, after having that ice cream and having to, go poop in the woods. Yes. It sounds to me like you've gotten something in mind. Well, yes, I have a few ideas, but I do not wish to ruin the surprise. Besides, Liz will be waiting for a return. Shall we be getting back? Heh, you're lucky. You have such a valid excuse. Let's go. My apologies for the wait, gentlemen. How'd it go? No answer, I'm afraid. I suppose it's getting late. With that in mind, how about we make the start of our practice? Unless either of you had something you wanted to discuss. Actually, there's something I'd like to talk with you all about. Ah, indeed. Today was the final day, was it not? It was, yes. Just so you know, no matter what your choice, we respect that decision, even if that means you're leaving the band. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Excuse me, but what? Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Poor Adrian doesn't even know what's going on yet. To properly comprehend everything that led to this point, we're gonna need about 5 episodes of GamerWolfSix's channel to, explain it all. Anyways, it's important that you understand. Me. I might look simple enough on the surface, but that's far from reality. In truth, it's kind of remarkable that I'm a functioning person at all. You're about to find out why. I'm gonna try and keep this brief, but if I leave anything pouring out, just ask, okay? Don't be afraid to interrupt. Lucas, Ty and I nod solemnly in unison, standing in attention with all eyes on Jay as he finally commenced the story. So, this morning, I had a long conversation with this guy called Maxwell. He's Ortegan, just like me. Different subspecies, different parts of the country, but the same, no less. And he was kind of patriot. He parroted the sorts of awful propaganda they do back home, and it opened up some old wounds. Adrian overheard some of the conversation, but I'll give you guys a summary. Basically, growing up in Ortega was hard, because of the whole, going extinct thing. There's a lot of pressure on kids to become breeders. Breeders are revered in our society. They're treated like saviors among our people, and wind up living privileged lives. The more kids you have, the better off you'll be, but having so much as one is kind of enough to ensure your needs be met for life. My maternal grandmother pretty much decided her life to that cause, or dedicated her life to that cause. Almost immediately after giving birth, she'd get herself pregnant again. And she did this over and over until her body simply couldn't take it anymore. She became one of the most respected breeders in Ortega. That meant my mom had dozens and dozens of siblings, all of whom carried the weight of their mother's legacy on their shoulders. Mom was one of only 2 fertile children, but 2 fertile children are practically considered a miracle, and Mom, she wanted nothing more than to follow her mother's footsteps. Because of the emphasis to put on breeders, there's a huge stigma that just sort of swallows everything else. Infertility is rampant for one, but that's not so bad. If you can't breed for reasons outside your control, you're mostly ignored, discarded, and that's practically a luxury compared to the alternative. But if you won't breed, well, that's another thing entirely. That's what it means to be gay in Ortega. It's akin to refusing conscription during wartime. You're a disgrace who is merely putting his own wants ahead of the needs of your entire species. Even if you're infertile and couldn't reproduce anyway. That doesn't matter. A man who prefers the company of other men, fertile or otherwise, is little more than a selfish and cowardly traitor in the eyes of overtaken society. All because of how you were born. Because of something you had no control over, no say in. Kinda fucked up, huh? You're treated as if you want your people to die. Like you're a worthless waste of potential. Like you were born wrong. And when you're a young teen, growing up in a taken society, and coming to terms with your own sexuality, the fear, the denial, the misery, it's more than enough to kill. And it does, constantly. Ortega, as a nation, has the highest rate of suicide in the world. But just wait until you hear just how high it is. Double? No. Triple? No way. Try 5 times the world's average. 5 times! And 80% of those suicides occur between the ages of 13 and 18. Take a wild guess why so many young men are taking their own lives before they reach adulthood. Go on, guess. But, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to snap. It's just, I had 4 friends I saw every single day as a kid, when we started high school together, but in the end, I graduated alone. I was the only one who made it through, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start at the beginning. My parents split up when I was 5 years old. Dad was fertile, obviously. He was also gay. He knew, but tried to bury it away, and live the way society expected him to. The life of a breeder, a hero of overtaken society, and it made him absolutely miserable. After I was born, there was constant pressure for him to follow up with another. Not just from my mom either, from everyone. Worse still, because of my mom's heritage, we were almost considered royalty, which only increased the pressure even more. He just couldn't force himself to go through it with it again. He just couldn't do it. Convincing me he had already been traumatic for him. It left him with some deep psychological scars. Before I knew it, 5 years had come and gone, and the pressure had progressively twisted into ire. Eventually, all I could do was come clean. Mom left. That was the day my parents split. For a while, they shared parental duties, but she was so busy with the whole saving species thing, so busy she eventually just stopped coming to visit. Her mission was more important than I could ever be. I got a lot of half-brothers back in Ortega, but last I heard, they're dying quicker than they can be replaced. How despicable is that? It's such a normal thing these days that nobody ever thinks twice about it. If you want to make an omelet, you gotta break a few eggs. Mom's final farewell came in the form of a check, a huge ass one. I was 7 at the time, and it was essentially 11 years of alimony paid in advance. And just like that, she was off the hook. Dad used that money to take me overseas on a huge vacation. We went everywhere. We saw everything. Outside the Ortegan border, we witnessed a world where sexuality was not only normalized, but completely devoid of any stigma whatsoever. He got a taste of the world that accepted him for who he was, the world that did not judge him or pressure him to be anything other than himself. The earliest memories I have of my dad, he looked so miserable, but in every memory I have of that vacation, he was always wearing this big, goofy smile. Always spent about a year abroad, all told. Oop, I clicked too fast. And we saw so many incredible places along the way, and when the stops, it was right here, Woodcrest. I'd grown a lot in 14 years. Honestly, the first time I was here, Woodcrest didn't leave much of an impression. I can't say I remember much about that visit, except for one specific thing. Dad brought me a souvenir in every single place we stopped or bought me a souvenir. I wound up with all kinds of knickknacks, clothes, accessories, collectibles, ornaments. After a while, we were dragging all kinds of junk along with us in our suitcase. So he opted for smaller and smaller gifts. During our stay in Woodcrest, my dad bought me the Black Claw's debut album. I'm ashamed to admit that my 7-year-old self lacked the refined taste required to appreciate such music. Upon my return to Ortega, it was regaled to the closest where it remained for. It was regaled to the closest closet where it remained for many long years, caked in dust and spiderwebs, just waiting for the day I could rediscover it. Following our return, Dad was hell-bent in finding us a permanent home somewhere in the outside world. Anywhere assured us both a better life and a life where we could have, that life we would have in Ortega. Yeah. He applied for a visa after visa, spending hours on his computer filling out applications. Every time that letter would arrive, we would eagerly open it together, excited to find out if that letter could contain the golden ticket and find us to a brighter future abroad. But letter after letter returned with unfortunate judgment, day after day, week after week, month after month. The excitement faded, and we grew exhausted with the relentless string of rejections, and as months turned into years, Dad, he simply lost hope. And the worst part is that he was declined on the grounds of being a medical burden on more than a few occasions, and all he had was fucking diabetes. The lights in his eyes simply vanished. He was trapped in his own personal hell. I didn't fully understand how he felt at the time, but years later, I would grapple with the revelation that our sexuality was something we held in common. It was around that time it had become my own personal hell too. It was around then I started high school. My group of friends didn't even make it through the first semester before our 5 became 4. I confided in Dad, and will never forget the words he said. Never let those bastards tell you who to be, or that is right, or what is right and wrong. That is for you to decide for yourself. And so long as you are following your heart and doing what makes you happy, who cares what they think? He was in my corner from day one, and as 4 became 3, I stumbled upon an old music CD buried deep in the closet. It was almost poetic that something found deep in my closet would be the very thing to help me come to terms with my own sexuality. 6 years had passed, and this time I was hooked from the very first listen, and there were songs about rebellion, songs about pride, songs about freedom, songs about the celebrated sexuality. It was like Dad had said, never let those bastards tell you who to be. Those were the most challenging days of my life. My friends were all as miserable, if not more so than I was. That is, those that remained. 3 would soon become 2, but I held on tight. Never give up, never surrender. Just like that rich, powerful baronet would howl on my favorite album. It was the perfect storm. I was fragile and vulnerable, desperate to find acceptance, to be proud of my sexuality, and, like any teenage boy, I was equally desperate to express my sexuality, and of all the things that could have captured my attention. It was one particular promo shot of Glenn on the back of the album booklet. He was alone, shirtless, and lit in such a way the lights bounced off his muscular body, casting shadows across his face that made him look menacing, made him look dangerous. What began was a crush that spiraled into a worrying obsession when the last of my friends followed the example of the others. I was all alone, and in my grief, I latched onto something, and my fragile mind began to construct this perception of whom I thought Glenn truly was. His lyrics painted a picture of this proud, courageous, and confident man who lived by his own creed, openly celebrated his sexuality, and explored that sexuality without shame, fear, or hesitation. Everything it stood for was in direct opposition to Ortegan society. He inspired a sort of rebellion in me. He became an icon, a messiah, a symbol of everything I so desperately wanted for myself. It was then I began modeling myself after him. It's why I picked up the guitar, and bass guitar in the first place, simply because it was the same instrument Glenn played. And, as I spiraled deeper still, I fell in love. It's pathetic, I know, but I felt madly in love with this man. I became entirely convinced he was my soulmate. I would see him when I closed my eyes, and meet him in my wildest dreams, and then there were the fantasies. I remember Dad's words. When you turn 18, promise me you'll find a way out of this horrible place. Promise me you'll find a better life and a brighter future somewhere where you're free to be yourself. Don't be trapped here like I have. Promise me you go out in the world and find your happiness. Honestly, I needed no convincing. And Glenn, I knew Woodcrest, and I knew Woodcrest was where I would find him. There's never any other destination. It was always going to be Woodcrest. And so, on my 18th birthday, I applied for a working class visa. 3 weeks passed before a single letter arrived in the mail. Dad was confused, not understanding why I applied for a single destination, rather than adopting his scattergun approach from years prior. But for the first time in roughly a decade, we opened the letter together, just like we used to, and for the first time ever, the letter contained good tidings. Dad was so proud of me, but he was also so sad that I would be leaving. I was all he had for the past 13 years, and with my departure, he would be all on his own. But he forced the brightest smile I'd seen since the vacations we'd taken all those years ago. He was so happy for me, and wanted nothing more than to bolster my confidence. The last thing he wanted was to instill any doubt. Though, try as he might, he could not conceal the tears that poured endlessly from tired eyes. My final day in Ortega, I was taking care of the last belongings, and the Black Claw CD was among those things. Over the years, I'd gotten the disc resurfaced to counteract the wear and tear generated by constant use. I didn't think you could do that. Alas, the disc could only be resurfaced so many times, and what remained was no longer readable by any CD player. Oh, for some reason I thought it was vinyl. The case was cracked and broken, the teeth that held the disc all but broken and missing, and the booklet? Oh god, that booklet. The less said about its condition, the better. Everything else went in the trash, but such a send-off was far too unceremonious for something that had been, and still was, such an important piece of my life, almost like a ritual of sorts. I set alight the smell of metal plastic flooded my nostrils. Eventually, all that remained was ashes. I wasn't sad. I could buy myself a brand new copy once I arrived in my new home. Perhaps I wouldn't even need a new copy. After all, I'd have the real thing all to myself, right? Although, it wasn't just old, broken memories that had been erased by the flame. So too did the flames engulf the person I had been, erasing my personality and everything else they had been for the past 18 years. I had been waiting for a long time to finally do that. The only thing that stood in my way was Ortega, but on that day, I'd leave Ortega behind. In Woodcrest, I'd become the person I'd spent years longing to be, a proud, courageous, confident man who lived by his own creed, openly celebrated his sexuality, and explored that sexuality without shame, fear, or hesitation. I would literally erase my own identity in order to become Glenn. The only thing from my past life that I did not discard? Dad. That day was the last time I saw him. I've been saving up money to bring him out here on vacation, but life keeps getting in the way. As it often does, but I know how lonely he's been. He deserves a nice holiday. I took one 4-hour flight, had a 6-hour layover, then took an 8-hour flight, which finally landed in Sidonia. It was then several more hours by train before I finally arrived in my new home, jet lag beyond belief, but positively ecstatic to have finally arrived at my new home. I knew Glenn even better than I had known myself, so adopting that persona was a simple affair, and the response to the new me was instantaneously electric. But of course it was. After all, I was only intimidating a far greater man than I could ever hope to become, right? I had been in Woodcrest for about a week when I visited the local music store, hoping to replace my copy of the debut album. I struck up the conversation with the clerk, who had a series of world-shattering revelations. I would firstly learn the existence of two more recently released albums. But then, I would learn that the Black Claws had split up only a short time prior to my arrival. That alone hurt a great deal, but then the clerk would begin to fill me in on the drama, which eventually led to the separation. He told me that the mohawk-wielding tiger punk that appeared on the booklet for the first album had matured into a classy and respectable man, while Glenn, a notoriously narcissistic and egotistical man, remained almost entirely unchanged. I learned about how the shift in dynamic would cause a rift to emerge between Glenn and the other two members of the band, with the resulting impact having a significant effect on the third album, that eventually resulted in the dissolution of the band, something that seemed long overdue by this point. All this was very hard to swallow, but the more the clerk spoke about Glenn, the more he recounted various stories and rumors, the more he painted that vivid picture of a largely despicable man, the more the world around me shattered into 1,000 tiny pieces. I was in denial and disbelief. I took the new records home and divvied right into the search for answers. Cracks were already showing on the sophomore effort, but the third album was damning. The material performed by each vocalist sounded nothing alike, almost as though they were completely different bands. Not only that, but the promotional material showed an unchanged Glenn next to a well-dressed and dapper-looking Ty, and having learned what I had about Glenn, this thrust several new songs into a new light, and didn't like what I had discovered. It was a very hard thing for me to process, sorry. We're gonna try and get through this. I had for a moment consulted that Glenn had existed within my dreams, my fantasies, and my wistful imagination was little more than a fabrication that had almost nothing in common with the real man. It was deeply sobering, to say the least. I had constructed my entire identity based on this person. I genuinely loved that man, and wanted nothing more to make him my own. And, in my still fragile mental state, learning that practically my entire life had been a lie was something far beyond what I was capable of processing. My instincts took over to shield me from harm. My identity, my grief, and the existential doubts were all buried deep down within me, and I simply carried on. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't rightly know who I even was, but people seemed to like that person, so that's why I continued to be. Woodcrest had been treating me well so far. My unresolved identity crisis notwithstanding, Woodcrest was otherwise daving on every one of my high expectations, delivering. As I continued to rehearse with such positive reception, habits would begin to form. I developed myself into a proud, courageous, and confident man who lived by his own creed, openly celebrating his sexuality and explored that sexuality without shame, fear, or hesitation, and in return, I received so much encouragement, acceptance, and love from my newfound peers. For the first time, maybe ever, I was genuinely happy. Existing in such positive circumstances healed my fractured mind and built me into a stable, healthy individual I had become. And I lived happily after that. At least, that's what I would have said if you'd asked me a few days ago. Sorry, I plan to keep things brief. Sure. You literally gave us your life story, and then some. It's just that this is the first time I really told anybody that stuff, ever. And it's kind of nice to get off my chest. The last 3 years, I've been kind of buried somewhere deep beneath the surface. I never addressed it, but it was otherwise benign. Was. Then, last Saturday happened, alongside everything that led up to that stupid... Damn it. There's an that. Anyways, that stupid argument with that idiot in the bar this afternoon. Suffice to say, it was all dug up. Wait, was that this afternoon? Okay, it's only about a couple of months ago. So I say, it all done and laid bare, whether I liked it or not. And this time, I can't just bury it again. This time, I need to deal with this thing head on. First and foremost, that's a long story. Anyways, my dear, burying a soul like that must have required a great deal of courage. I'm proud of you for doing so, and I thank you for being so forthcoming with us. I concede much of what you said shared has caught me by complete surprise. There are some aspects of your past I simply do not know how to respond to. That being said, your actions on Saturday did not make a lot of sense until now. Now, it makes perfect sense. For better or for worse. For worse, definitely. Still a complete bonehead move. Even if you did it, makes more sense now. If why you did it makes sense now. Regretfully, I'm inclined to agree with Lucas on that front. Yeah, I know. It was stupid. I'm not claiming otherwise, nor am I trying to justify it, so you don't need to scold me about it again. It was a simple argument, jeez. Apologies, that's not our intention. It's fine. It's just like I said. I've thought about it a lot, and I know where to go from here, but I haven't told Aiden what happened yet. And now that I've gotten all the drama out of the way, it seems like a perfect opportunity. Of course, my dear, once again, take as long as you need. No, don't take as long as you need. For God's sakes. I'm listening, Jay. Go ahead, whenever you're ready. I just hope I won't gag this time. Eh? What? Is it that kind of story? Only if find Glenn repulsive. After more than a decade of trying this shit, I do. Otherwise, who knows, you might even enjoy it. Ooh, this is sounding rather zesty. Alright, Jay, hit me with the good shit. How about we hit him with the good shit another time? Because, again, this is Sileo. Like, I don't want to rag on the game too much, even though I rag on it constantly for it, but it's like, I got. We started Ty's roots. Let's see. 2, 4, 6, 8. No, wait. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28. No, wait, I'm doing that wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Right. 16, 17, 18? Yeah, so this... Okay, maybe a bit short of 18. Yeah, let's just say 17. It's taken 17 months to do this route. Come on. Give me a break. But, that's going to be the end of this thing. But again, it's like, I don't know how long his next story could be. It could be, if it was any other thing, it could be like 5 minutes. If it's Sileo, it could be a month. A month, damn you. Anyways, comment, cause I like comments, tell me what you like, dislike, tips, tricks, otherwise. If you like my YouTube and like see it grow, then please like, subscribe, and check out the videos to help grow. And please remember spaying your animals to help control the pet population. I kind of want to get more foodstuffs in my gut. I've been doing lots of videos today. I know, I'm on a roll. I probably want to take a bath because I stink. Okay, maybe not stinky, but you know. And until next time, GamerWolfSix of Sileo. Oh, if you want to play this game, free on itch.io. but they don't have a... Oh, right, I was doing a side play, wasn't I? Yeah, that would make sense. They don't have Patreon anymore, but they do have other stuff, I guess. Thanks, see ya.